Revolution Uploaded.
Angry crowds battle tear gas and water cannons. Classic scenes of revolution. But the recent uprisings in the Arab world have been played out not just on the streets, but also through the cell phone and the computer screen. There's a new generation of cyber revolutionaries, skilled in how to tweet, blog and upload.
I can send everything through my cell phone. Text, pictures, videos, information, whatever I want to do.
They've defeated decades of state control over television, newspapers and free speech. But regimes are fighting back. They're shutting down the internet, blocking sites and cutting mobile networks. The battle lines have been redrawn. Information uploaded onto the internet is the new weapon of the 21st century. At the border with Libya, refugees flee the intense fighting. More than 500,000 have crossed into Tunisia since the conflict began. But human cargo is not the only thing coming across the border. At a secret location, Libyan rebel fighters have highly sensitive contraband to hand over to the Tunisians.
وبإمكانك مشاهدة الصورة في الكمبيوتر كلها شعارات تدعو إلى الحرية للشعب الليبي. وهذا المقطع كان أهالي نالوت يقومون بإسقاط ما يسمى بالكتاب الأخضر في مدينة نالوت، وهو رمز من رموز القذافي. وطبعا حتى الشق الإعلامي يعتبر ما يقلش أهمية عن الشق العسكري وأقوى يعتبر.
Under Gaddafi's regime, internet access has been cut and smuggling videos and photos on SIM cards, USBs and mobile phones is the only way to show the outside world the extent of the uprising in Libya. But the initial spark that ignited this revolution happened only 100 miles away. It all started here on this street, on the morning of the 17th of December 2010, when 26-year-old street seller Mohamed Bouzizi had a humiliating run-in with the authorities. He set himself alight in protest. There were no videos and no photos, nothing to record the moment that kick-started revolution across the Arab world. But hours later, all this would change when his family took to the streets.
وقمنا بالتصوير عن طريق الفيديو. كنت أنا شخصياً أقوم بالتصوير. كنا حاضرين يومها، حاولنا دائماً أن نكسروا حاجز الخوف لدى الأهالي بوجودنا، ونكسروا كذلك الحاجز الإعلامي اللي كان يفرض نظام بن علي، وكانت انطلاقا من هذه النقطة. الحين هلموا هلموا لمجد الزمن حتى
In a desperate effort to get his family's message heard, Ali uploaded his footage onto the internet.
الفيسبوك هو كانت الطريقة تقريبا الوحيدة اللي يمكن استعمالها باش نصدروا المعلومة، لأنه بالفعل ما كانش عندنا حتى طريقة أخرى نجموا نتواصلوا بها.
His videos got an amazing response. This lone protest in a little-known town went viral, spreading to hundreds of thousands of TV sets, computers and mobile phones in Tunisia.
تصنع في الكرتوج؟ اللي سيدي بوزيدي انت ضخم شيء
مكناسي كراه نتاع البوليسية.
Ali Saidan and his daughter Maisa were among the thousands who watched the videos from Sidi Bouzid and were persuaded to join the protests.
قام بمحاولة ضرب الفيديوهات، ولكن هيئات فهي عندما تحمل تصل حلقات متقاطعة من الأصدقاء في أقل من 3 دقائق تكون هذه الفيديوهات قد وصلت الملايين. صفحتي على الفيسبوك هي حديقة أهتم بها كثيراً.
Through Facebook, Ali and Maisa have been able to connect with people all over the world, sowing the seeds of revolution across international borders.
اكتشفت عبر صداقات مشتركة بعض المدونين المصريين، وكان يهمني أن أعرف كيف يتعامل الشباب المصري مع فيسبوك.
By the height of the Tunisian revolution, Ali had a number of Egyptian Facebook friends.
الناس فضلت ملهمة بأحداث الثورة التونسية 4 أسابيع. الشعار الأهم هو الشعب يريد إسقاط النظام. هو ما كانش موجود في تاريخ مصري قبل كده نهائيا. الشعب يريد إسقاط النظام تونسي باقتدار، يعني تونسي بنسبة 100%.
Through the internet, Bisan could share her political ideas with a far larger circle of people than she could ever reach with traditional methods.
لما كانش فيسبوك لوجب اختراعه، يعني لأنه باختصار ده الاريا الوحيد المفتوح.
A groundswell of protest began to form as people found a way to voice their opinions.
أنا بس بصور لكم فيديو عشان أقول لكم رسالة واحدة. عايزين ننزل يوم 25، هننزل نطالب بحقنا كبني آدمين. أنا نازلة يوم 25 وهقول للفساد لأ والنظام لأ.
By January the 25th, 90,000 protesters had signed up on Facebook to a day of rage.
يوم 25 يناير انا ما نزلتش الشارع، كان شغلي مكتبي اكتر منه في الشارع.
As protesters waged revolution on the streets, they needed a way to get their message out to a wider public.
كان في زمايلنا اقروا نفسهم مهمه ان هم يجمعوا من الناس في الشارع كونتنت مالتي ميديا، فيديوهات على صور ووثائق ويوصلوها لنا واحنا بننشرها على الانترنت. قعدنا نلعب اللعبه ديت لغايه ما اخر سيرفر كان متاح في مصر كمان اتقفل.
On the 27th of January, the government started shutting down lines of communication. But the protesters found a way to be heard from an unlikely source 5,000 miles away.
Around 10 or 12 thugs from the NDP standing there with their knives and machetes and stopping us and asking us why are we against Mubarak and they are threatening us to leave the
So this was an example of one of many phone calls that I did with Remy.
From his small office in the University of California, John Scott Railton found a way to reconnect Egyptians with the internet. He created a service called Jan 25 Voices. With all signals out of Egypt cut, he went back to relying on the old-fashioned telephone.
This was all about calling old fixed post numbers and reaching people's grandmothers, reaching their aunts, and getting those people to relay information from the youth who are out on the streets.
John created a network of Egyptians he could call to get information. He typed out their comments and posted them on Twitter, allowing the world to get minute-by-minute updates to the Egyptian revolution.
Cairo right now, people are in prayer, things quiet for now, and then the protest explodes. A wall of chanting from the street. The street is filled, we cannot see the pavement, chanting, Mubarak has to leave. Tear gas is arcing across the crowd. I get a chill just reading this again. And then police have blocked Gala Bridge, uncountable mass forming at Gala Square. They are trying to ram the barricade. And you remember that footage of the tear gas. I was talking to someone watching that.
Two days later, John started putting the audio online for people to hear. At this point, his small operation was overwhelmed with listeners.
The audio has 4,077,000 plays from Jan 25 Voices. And I actually got a very nice little note from the CEO of this company saying, oh, by the way, you crashed our site. I'm gonna have to take this.
With revolution now raging in neighbouring Libya, John has created a second service called Feb 17 Voices.
John, how are you?
Can we talk about where the shelling is coming from? For example, I know before it was coming from the medical technology clinic, is that right?
The shelling is hitting neighborhoods all over the city. Tanks, snipers, shootings, 20 people were killed yesterday, 9 so far today.
As the violence has escalated, the service has been inundated.
We call on the international community to take the next step to really save the lives of the people of Misrata. This mad dictator, this criminal will massacre the people of Misrata. the humanitarian situation. We have now more than 8,000.
Are you still there? Can you hear me? It's really very hard. It's extremely hard. Two of the people who I've worked with have already been killed. The best friend of one of my other sources was killed yesterday. So it's difficult. It's really difficult.
In Tunisia and Egypt, the struggle has paid off. In both countries, non-violent protest, organised through the internet, has succeeded in unseating decades of authoritarian rule. At present, an interim military council leads Egypt. Although the army was neutral during the revolution, since it has ended, the crackdowns have continued. On the 9th of March, a crackdown in Tahrir Square resulted in more than 100 arrests. The uprising has given birth to a new army of citizen journalists with the internet at their fingertips.
So this is someone calling me to check on 4 names that have been missing since the 9th of March.
Three days after the crackdown, Mona is on her way to the military courts to gather information.
What we know so far is that a group of them has been tried before a military court, and maybe today would be the sentence. Social media has been a very powerful tool in our search for any missing people or detainees. I already am getting messages from people I don't know at all with names added. Okay, I'll see you.
A list of possible detainees has been compiled by activists over the internet. In this new post-revolution era, information is still proving hard to get hold of.
The lawyer came back and he said that most of them got sentenced from 1 to 3 years, which is basically what we were fearing.
After a 12-hour day outside the military court, there's still important work for Mona to do on her computer back home.
I'm just waiting for tomorrow to start and work on a practical plan and then get engaged people in it through Twitter and Facebook. يلا باي باي. First of all, I inform people because I sort of built a personal connection with all the followers, and they wait for me to tell them the latest news. How did I get into this? How did I become a source of information? I don't know when this really happened, but suddenly people whom I don't know completely are depending on me as a credible source. And I found people I don't know saying, we won't believe it till Mona Sosh says it.
With the help of social media, revolution has spread across the Arab world. But more than that, it's created a new generation of citizens, learning how to enforce democracy from their computers.
اوكي طيب all right اوكي يلا. In Homs, I think in Orhama there is a massacre basically right now.
اطلاق نار على المتظاهرين السلميين حمص.
Yesterday Homs was really very violent. I'm just getting the message ready. I'm hoping that we can send some summary to various media outlets.
In Syria, the revolution is turning bloody. Hundreds of people have been killed since protests started. From his situation room near Washington, D.C., Ammar makes sure the internet is constantly updated with news from the front line.
Freedom, freedom. This is in Douma yesterday.
The internet has not been shut down, but protesters fear this is because the government wants to use it for its own advantage.
This is part of the battle. It's cyber warfare. It's part of the actual battle going on right now. Perseverance is key, and eventually, I think the Syrian regime will end up realizing that the real lesson is that you cannot oppress your people forever. And this is the lesson that they don't want to learn, but we will teach them that lesson.
This is just the start of the process. Across this region, people are now risking everything for a better life.
These people are angry and they feel the government just simply doesn't care about them.
There have been protests here all morning, slogans calling on freedom.
There are people watching all of this on TV and wondering if they can do the same thing.